A borderless Africa would be amazing.
Lower class people, we don't benefit much from the tourism.
It's more intentional, it's more reflective.
Seychelles is for everyone, including Africans.
You've seen how the slaves were living, and now we are living in a proper house.
That they had the abolishment of slavery.
It's historical. Social media and just general media paints a clear picture for you of Seychelles being this pristine island with lovely beaches, white sand, boat trips, and really a tourist haven. And that's what it is, in some sense. You can't get away from it. It's an absolutely beautiful place, really dreamy, in my opinion. In my more recent travels, I have wanted to discover more and find out more about these places that I go to. There isn't just a single narrative with travel. Beneath the picturesque view, there is more to be discovered. And this was essentially what Seychelles as a travel destination for me has become. The decision to come to Seychelles was one I tussled with initially. Again, most places have a brand. Whether we like it or not, there's something when you think about certain countries, you think about there's an association with something. Some places are bustling cities, some places are culture rich, some places are relaxation and pristine beaches. So a lot of places, in my experience anyway, a lot of places seem to have one or a couple of tags associated with them. So I tussled with the idea of coming to Seychelles purely because of this tag that had been placed on Seychelles. And I thought, actually, is this going to lend itself to the sort of stories I want to tell about travel and the perspective I now have of travel? Does it lend itself to it? And very quickly, I started to realize that, I mean, typically there's nowhere you go to that doesn't have its own story. So the fact that Seychelles does have a story makes it worthy of any sort of travel. So it's a myth that I already started to dispel even prior to coming here, because I think it's just sometimes based on lack of education. I think there's enough online for you to start to get a sense of what a place feels like and stuff that sits beneath what's been marketed.
But they were talking about it everywhere they go. They said, hey, we passed by the Indian Ocean and we saw these islands. They were beautiful, you know. But then the French, oh, those guys, they're explorers. So they came down to the Indian Ocean and they found the French here, and they found the island. So they came in 1770. They decided to come. They come and settle on Staten Island. Staten Island is an island which is close to Victoria. When we go to Victoria, we're gonna see.
One of my more interesting interactions whilst I've been in Seychelles has been with our tour guide. Our tour guide was a guy called Barry, really colorful character, really interesting guy, had stories for days, had such energy as well. When for what was a 4 to 5 hour tour, Barry just kept the energy up. Barry gave me a perspective on tourism and the impact it's having on local players here. He talked about how a lot of tourism now broadly benefits the big players, but for local guides such as him, they could go months without seeing any work, even in the peak seasons, which was quite disturbing, but also eye-opening for me. You'd think a place like this, pulling so much tourist dollars or tourism, there would be enough work for everyone. But it feels like most of the tourism is being pushed towards certain players.
I think that it helps to develop because you've seen the way we were before in the 18th, 16th, 17th century, and now it's the 20th century. Things have changed completely. We have gone from one stage to the other. You've seen how the slaves were living, and now we are living in a proper house. There's no more slavery, you know. I see that it benefits not much people. Lower class people, we don't benefit much from the tourism. It needs to give us more instead of continue giving the ones that are benefiting more from this sector. I do this business, tourist guide, but I see that more tourists is going to the big companies. And yet they come and tell us, you have to advertise, advertise, advertise. How can you advertise when you are not getting clients to you, to advertise yourself? You have to have cash. But if you don't get clients, you don't get cash.
What about things like even social media? Is that something that helps you in advertising your services?
Yeah, it's true. In development, it's nice. Social media is here. But like I tell you, if you don't have cash, everything is payable, all right? For you to be able to, let's say I want to advertise myself, I have to pay. It's not free, but where do I get the money?
As a traveler, you typically go with more trusted players because the safety and security are a big part of tourism overall. So it's important that people feel safe, and this is what these big entities or the bigger, more prominent entities in travel have over a local player like Barry. Barry said he hadn't had work for a while. He only got brought into this gig by chance, and that was by the driver who took us out on the day. We had the honor of spending Barry's birthday with him. It so happened to be his birthday on the day we went out with him. And even a little moment that happened at the end, we only found out it was a birthday halfway through. Barry is one of those guys where you're not sure if it's really his birthday, but we felt it. He was being sort of genuine about it. But right at the end, as they dropped us off, we just broke into a happy birthday song for him. And surprisingly, he started to get emotional. And I don't know what that was down to. Maybe it's a case of just showing love to people. Sometimes unexpectedly can break people down. He might have been dealing with other things. He clearly is dealing with the realities of life here, the struggle of life and trying to, take care of his family. He gave us some insight into his family, was really vulnerable with us through different parts of the conversation we had with him. For me, it gave me a very different perspective on just how tourism in itself is impacting the people beneath that layer that is broadly marketed and the more popular perspective of the country.
Because of breakfast. Oh, more.
Now, when it's 6 a.m. We remove pancake. That's when we remove pancake. We remove sausage.
Why are you removing? Why are you removing things?
I've never really prioritized luxury travel. If the choice is between one expensive trip or 2 or 3 more affordable ones, I've almost always chosen to see more places instead. So this trip was a bit different. We booked it really late after our original plans changed because of unrest in the Middle East. So there weren't that many options left, and we ended up choosing a place that gave us a bit of comfort, somewhere by the sea, and somewhere that let us slow down for a few days, really. I'm grateful for experiences like this. I think they remind me that I don't need luxury to enjoy a place.
Well, let's give you a promise of the day that
we were going through a guided tour and we had taken a short break and ran into someone who's quite deeply entrenched in Seychelles politics. He had been an active player here for many years, very widely traveled, seemingly quite well-to-do. And he talked about how Seychelles is trying to promote more intra-Africa travel, how it's important that the Seychelles isn't just seen as a luxury location for travel. It was interesting to note the countries that he wanted to start to build relationships with and build like this tourism alignment or links with. Ghana was one he was curious about. He had tried with Nigeria in the past. So was curious to hear that we were Nigerians, and it was a meeting by chance. I'm also traveling with a friend of mine who runs a business in Ghana that promotes tourism within Africa. So it was an interesting meeting, certainly for her, but also for me.
My travel lately has transformed a lot from when I started this travel passion of mine. Initially, I would just pick a destination because I felt this is what I needed to see. Maybe because a lot of people were visiting that destination or everyone was talking about it. But recently, I've noticed that there's been a shift in the way that I travel.
I'm also traveling on this trip with a good friend of mine called Tara. When I set this channel up, I said I was going to feature creatives and people in the travel space that I found interesting and inspirational. Tara has been a friend of mine for over 20 years, and she runs a business in Ghana that focuses on promoting travel and tourism within Africa, but beyond that, promoting wellness alongside travel.
It's more intentional, it's more reflective, it definitely has more hues and more hints of wellness in selecting my destinations and the entire planning of the vacation as well. Typically, I would be looking for a destination that balances some time for stillness, some time for reflection, some time for maybe meditation. All of that stuff, just being in nature, has a very calming effect and allows my trip to be more meaningful. I feel more immersed and I'm able to enjoy the destination for all it has to offer. Doing like a helicopter tour of the island. You know, we could do that as well.
Oh, really?
For the inside down. You would? And we go inside down.
Well, because of all the challenges, or some of the prominent losses that happened with helicopters.
So by 1811, we became a British colony. This is why you see the Seychelles. I can say everything you see, our heritage, our culture, it derives from different parts of the world. Because I can say at a certain point, you got everybody coming to Seychelles. Paul, especially if you're driving, it's a good way to sober up, sweat out the alcohol, all right? We have information board, we have 2 times and tortoises, Taka and Maka, and we also have some medicinal spice with that also, after we're done with the tasting, you get to know all the notes of the alcohol, sweat out the alcohol, all right? So I will start off with the history of our property, as it is one of our heritage sites.
Oh, this one, yeah, I'll go taste them. Smell.
Number 2. That's what she was describing, because the dark one is okay. But she said if this one is senior or that one, and then I can imagine it to be nice.
That's how it's supposed to feel.
It's nice. It's spicy.
Last time I saw Tara before this trip was probably about 21 years ago. So we had so much catching up to do. But one thing that kept coming up throughout was who Seychelles is actually for. The context of travel within Africa by Africans. So the history of Seychelles tells a story of people arriving from all over the world. Barry made mention of this. The tour guide at the Takamaka Run tour made mention of this. Africans, Europeans, Asians, all helped shape what the country is today. But today, traveling into the Seychelles and spending time within the Seychelles isn't really for everyone. It certainly doesn't feel that way. But then by extension, traveling in and around Africa is certainly not the easiest thing for Africans.
A lot of people from the diaspora are already coming back for connections and for leisure and all the other reasons why they travel. What makes it a bit harder sometimes is that with Africans in Africa, within Africa, there are a few things that just get in the way when they are trying to visit the continent, which shouldn't be, because this is their home, this is where they are. So it should be easy for them to just move across countries. But when you get into the issue of having to now apply for a visa, that might take some time. There are also the cost implications. Those sometimes put people off. And with these barriers, I would say that restricts the very easy movement of Africans within the continent. They kind of compound. It may seem like a little thing here or a little bit there, but when someone now has to spend maybe a little extra time getting a visa, these processes aren't that straightforward either. You know that it's maybe like a 2 to 6 week processing window. Yes, you have to pay for the visa. It comes back, and then you do your travel. So that's one aspect of it. When you even look at the connectivity within the continent, the flights, the cost of the flights. It's interesting how you are flying 2 countries over and you could be paying as much as $800. And the average person may not be making that much to say, I'm gonna spend this amount on my flights. So that also becomes a bit of an issue. Look at the costs of flights, or introduce other modes of transport that get you from one country to the next without all these impediments.
Yes.
The currency bits and
One's tired and they want to go, we can drop them off here.
Yeah.
And then whoever wants to go to the spice garden, we can continue on.
Then we have to go back and go to the front.
Is it so from the hotel?
Additionally, I believe that the cherry on top of this cake would also be to have one currency. I know this is something that's been talked about. People think about it. There are the pros, there are the cons. But when you think about travel in Africa, especially with what I do, within a year or even within a few months, you're hopping from country to country. You're going to East Africa, you're going to South Africa, West Africa, all these different regions. And even within the regions, there are different currencies. So if you take travel from, say, Nigeria to Ghana, for example, and we want to talk about the currency aspect of that, in Nigeria, we use Naira. So you're spending in Naira, you cross over to Benin, and then you begin to spend in CFA. So you need to make another currency change for that. From Benin, you move into Togo. Thankfully, they both use the CFA, so another change isn't required there. Once you get into Ghana, you're now using cedis. So this is 4 African countries and 3 different currencies that you're dealing with. If you go further into the east, you start touching shillings. When you go to Seychelles, you're looking at rupees. And so these are a few of the things that if we were able to get on top of, travel to Africa and travel within Africa would be unmatched, it would be unstoppable.
But what has made this trip interesting for me wasn't just the scenery. It was hearing people's stories and the different perspectives on travel and the impact it has on life here. For some, it's business. For some, it's opportunity. For some, it's escape. And for some, it is just survival. Being aware of this and hearing these different stories here has created a more honest perspective of Seychelles for me, beyond the luxury.